In the third and last video of this lecture, we will address customer contact strategies after an uncertain data breach. In the case, we learned that IBK's website is locked up due to a DDoS attacks. We learned that the customer service application was down due to the change of the name of the database file. We learned that the IBK received a continuous flow of emails with title gotcha. We also learned that the security team checked all logs but could not find any trace of unauthorized access to the database. So the team wondered if it was only an availability issue or it was also an unauthorized access to the data of the customers and the company. If it was a data breach, it must be disclosed according to the law. To disclose a data breach to a customer, you need to make decision about several different components. You need to specify your customer contact strategy. First, you need to make decision if the disclosure is going to be to the public, to all customers, only customers whose data records were accessed before the attack, or no disclosure at all. You also need to specify the medium for that disclosure. Are you going to call customers, or are you going to write to the customers, or you're going to have a conference call to disclose to the public or to all customers? Another decision to be made is who contact customers. The senior executives, which would be a grant, gesture by the organization to show that they care about their customers, or only customer service is going to contact them. A fourth decision to be made is the timing of the disclosure. Are you is this disclosure is going to take place at a time not too far in the future when the new situation is in favorable to is favorable to the company, where company is great, doing great, and then you can say that, oh, we had this issue as well. Or we should do it quickly, uh, but we coordinate the contacts, the disclosure with business news day. So, for example, if a huge uh, news is covered in the media, we are going to uh, specify, disclose our, the data breach during that time, or um, we spread the disclosure over time, which means that you start with a batch of customers next week, then another batch 2 weeks from now, and then another batch of customers, 2 months from now. So with that, you uh, would see that the customers, there won't be many customers knowing about this thing, and then writing about that in social media, and as a result a trend would not be created, which would damage the reputation of the company, which would make the old media, the traditional media, aware of the issue to cover it and create a bigger, damage to the reputation of the company. Another fifth decision that you need to make is what to say during this disclosure. Are you going to say, oh, IBK was attacked or not? Are we going to tell customers that they need to be vigilant of identity theft? They need to take, a good check of, their bills and their bank accounts and their credit cards. So what we're going to say, what I'm going to help Jim Barton with is with this question: what or how we should say things during a customer contact, during a disclosure of a data breach. As a company, you can take a defensive strategy. You can either go for denial of the attacks or you can provide excuses. With denial, you seek to frame that no breach crisis exists at all. We haven't seen these cases these years because, according to the law, companies are obliged to announce um, the data breaches if they happen. The second uh, way to apply this defensive strategy is to provide excuses, to just seek to minimize the organization's responsibility for the breach and attribute the issue to a third party. So, so you claim that, oh, this happened because we were working with IBM and IBM didn't provide the service in the way that it was supposed to do. We are going to blame Canvas, for a major issue that happened, the company that built this learning management system. So you're not going to blame Tilburg University. We are not going to blame Tilburg University. We blame Canvas or a third party for the issue. So the thing is that this defensive strategy can evoke suspicion and perception of dishonesty, unless you have, uh, you're completely sure that you're not responsible for the crisis, which is this can happen when a natural disaster happen or we have a terrorist attack. So things like that, then you can go for an excuse strategy. The second customer contact strategy is accommodative strategy, where you try to make things easier for the customer going through the trouble that you caused for them because of the data breach. You can go for apologizing from the customer to to at least psychologically uh, making it easier for the uh, customer is way better than saying that, okay, being defensive, that nothing happened, it wasn't our fault. At least the customer understands that you understand the problem that is caused for him and you feel responsibility for that. The second way to implement accommodative strategy is to take remedial actions, trying to repair uh, the, the harm that you caused, repair the financial status of the customers, to try to control the damage by offering free credit monitoring services, for example. So that means that the bank account or the credit card of the customers are uh, uh, monitored by some big security companies to ensure that suspicious activities are not being done using those credit cards. And you can also, for example, insure them against identity theft. And also you can even offer financial compensations, uh, giving them, for example, $1,000 for the problem that you caused for them. This can induce suspicion because then the customers would be very worried that the breach is severe, and it can even induce more uh, legal and financial liabilities in the future. Uh, Also, publicly accepting responsibility for a breach means that uh, lawsuits is going to happen for sure, but you also you weaken your firm's legal position. I'm not saying that these are ethical, but if you are not completely sure that data breach is occurred because of you, because of the issue that caused by your company, this strategy can weaken your legal position. A third customer contact strategy can be moderation strategy, where you try to reduce the negative effect of that data breach. You can go for an ingratiation approach to this strategy, where you try to make the customers and shareholders like the organization. Again, you can state that the company has a strong history of data privacy protection. You can say that you value the relationship with the customers and their trust in you. You value your relationship with the shareholders and their trust in you, so that these stakeholders like the organization better. A second approach to moderation strategy is justification, where you try to minimize the perceived damage. Here you try to communicate that the firm does not believe that the lost data have been or will be misused, or the lost data were encrypted or password protected, so the attackers cannot use the data. Or you can say that this was just an isolated act. You don't believe that this happened at a larger scale, or is going to happen again due to the measures that you already have, uh, you already placed in the organization. So this seems to be a more acceptable strategy, because first, you don't deny your responsibilities, like what can happen if you take a defensive strategy. You also neither you induce any suspicion of severe attacks. You have a lower chance of being bumped into legal liabilities. Um, and it also shows that the firm has knowledge on the nature and severity of the breach. A fourth customer contact strategy is image renewal, where you try to repair the damage to your reputation. Uh, you can go for a correction commitment. You reassure the customers and shareholders that you will avoid similar breach incidents happen in the future. You claim that you are going to implement new security measures to prevent the recurrence of such attacks. You can also reassure the stakeholders that you are committed to them, you are committed to providing the best services and products. Uh, Claim that you are there to help them and protect their data. You can also reassure the customers about your core values. You would tell them from now on you're going to take security of the customers extremely seriously. You're going to value the privacy of the stakeholders even more, and this is going to be your top priority from now on. So if we want to compare the effect of these various customer contact strategies on the stock price changes, you'll figure out that for highly reputable firms, there is no difference between the four strategies. So these strategies are usually influential if you are a normal firm that you're not Apple, you're not IBM. You are a normal firm that you don't that people may not the public may not know you that much. And with these firms, it has been found that the defensive strategy and accommodative strategy has negative effect, but it's not significant enough uh, to be worried about. But If you take moderation strategy or image renewal strategy, it's going to have a positive influence on your stock price changes. So again, highly reputable firms are not going to be affected. Normal firms are going to be affected by taking different customer contact strategies. And that's usually happen because these great names, great brands have demonstrated many capabilities over the years that investors discount just one negative issue as bad things always happen. So here's my recommendation to the CIO, Jim Barton. The CEO made the decision that you do not believe. He doesn't want to disclose anything. That's fine, but you need to prepare yourself for a data for the news to get out, to the news leak to the customers and shareholders. So you'd better prepare yourself for that now by creating a customer contact strategy. And based on the research that I just explained, I suggest Jim Barton to go for a moderation and image renewal strategy and avoid defensive and accommodative strategies as much as possible. Pause here for a minute and answer these three questions. In the next lecture, we will go over communication between the top executives and CIO as well as social media.